No respect. Good evening. The meeting of the Board of Adjustment for the Borough of Somerville for February 21st will please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act has been provided that on January 17, 2024, a copy of the notice specifying the date, time, and location was posted on the bulletin board outside of Borough Hall, given to the clerk administrator, mailed, faxed, or emailed to the Courier News, and posted on the Borough website. If any member believes that this meeting is being held in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act, please state your views at this time. These proceedings are of a judicial nature. Only those items on the agenda will be addressed, and the proper judicial decorum must and will be maintained. Next item, roll call, please.
Chairman Adair?
Here.
Mr. Allett?
Here.
Ms. Carpenets?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Vidimski?
Here.
Mr. Flores? Mr. Alvarez?
Here.
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We have any conflicts? And next item, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag Before we get going, as I said, only those items on the agenda will be addressed. Is there anybody here with the, about the gun shop? Because we don't have jurisdiction on that, so we can't even address it. And it's been addressed by Chairman Novato and the mayor. Okay, so we're good there. Next item, approval of the minutes for the January 17th meeting.
I'll move. Second.
Move second. Any
I have
discussion?
just a change. Jenna, you referred to me as Mayor Morgan McLaughlin. So that was very nice.
That's, she can see into the future.
Oh, no.
Ed says the same thing. It's fun. Been there.
Was that fun? Can there be fun?
Don't you miss this? Okay. Let's move second and make with corrections. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item would be no resolutions, a hearing on 6 West Cliff Street. Oh, wasn't on my, that wasn't on my agenda today. Oh, we do it, because I know Cliff sent one. Resolution?
Where's Cliff?
We'll get all the stuff out the way. Someone like to move the resolution?
I read it. I'll move it. Second.
Move second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Adair?
Yes?
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenets?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Vidimski?
Okay. Guess we'll have to go into a little recess until Cliff gets here. Want to give him a call? He's outside? Okay. You still use Joe and Pat, right? You still use Pat for digging and foundations?
Yeah.
When he's not in the hospital?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Meticulous. problem. Before we do that, would someone like to move that John Flory's absence be recorded as excused?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
So moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, 6 West Cliff Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Michael Silbert. I'm an attorney from the law firm DeFrancesco Bateman, located in Warren Township, New Jersey. And before I begin, I haven't appeared before the board since last year, and I just want to congratulate the borough and the board on this beautiful new room we're in. It's a little bit of an improvement from last time, so congratulations. Yeah, maybe. So I have the privilege of representing the applicant this evening, 6 West Cliff Street LLC. This application is for preliminary and final major site plan approval with D and C variance relief for renovations to existing buildings which are located on Block 108, Lot 18, more commonly known as 6 West Cliff Street. And Mr. Gibbons, I don't know if you'd have the opportunity to do this, if you've had the chance to look at it, but can you just confirm that notice is proper and that the board has jurisdiction on this matter?
Yes, that's fine. I believe the board has jurisdiction to act on this application for your notices.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. So the proposed renovations include converting the existing office space on the first and second floors of the structure, which I'll refer to as the main structure, into a 3-bedroom apartment unit, and that unit will span both the first and second floors. And then the applicant proposes to convert the existing attic space in the main dwelling, which is currently vacant, into a studio apartment unit. So you'll have a total of 3 apartment units proposed within the main dwelling on the property. And then on the northwest portion of the property, a detached carriage house exists, and the applicant's seeking to renovate and convert this carriage house into a 4-bedroom apartment unit. So really this application is for a total of 3 apartment units, 2 of which are in the main dwelling, 1 apartment unit to be located in the detached carriage house. So the application and the renovations are really focused on renovations to be made to the structure's interior. If I may say so myself, the existing dwelling is a stunning home and one of the hallmarks of Somerville. So the applicant's intent is to substantially preserve the existing exterior appearance of both structures on the property. Some minor aesthetic changes are proposed specifically to the carriage house, which we'll get into in greater detail this evening. And then there's some additional improvements to the property. The elimination of existing parking spaces, and one of the main things that I would like to discuss before we go forward with our professionals is the current driveway is a one-way through the property which fronts on West Cliff Street, and the applicant has currently a reciprocal easement with the neighboring property, Lot 19. Currently, the applicant, to exit the property, has to go through the adjoining property and exit onto North Bridge Street. What this application does is eliminate this easement and provides for a 2-way means of ingress and egress on Lot 18. The reason why I'm raising this point is because in Mr. Cole's November 29th review letter, I'm sorry, not November 29th. No, actually, I think it was November 29th. This goes back, November 29th, 2023.
Yeah.
It was brought to our attention that although the easement was recorded, the easement never received any board approval. So Mr. Cole questioned whether, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Cole, but the memo, the review letter suggests that the easement wasn't approved by the board. And with that being said, we figured the most recent letter, dated February 13, 2023, suggests that the board and presumably the board attorney should weigh in as to whether permission is required to get rid of the existing driveway easement. And then later on in the hearing, I will speak to what the applicant proposes to do with the new driveway. But I thought that was good to address that early on. I don't know if you, Mr. Cole, or Mr. Gibbons, if you have,
Well, just a question, I mean, you had a private recorded easement between the parties?
we had a private recorded easement between the parties, however, the uses of the property have changed a number of times where it would go from single family, where it would be exempt from site plan review, to then it would have, I'll use the term mixed uses, it would have commercial and office. So I think that was what, Mr. Cole was drawing attention to in his first review letter, was that the uses have changed, however, this easement wasn't, approved by way of site plan approval.
Well, have the burdened and benefited parties gotten together on the extinguishment of the easement?
So, they have, and there is a, release and extinguishment, that's been drafted, and it's contingent upon site plan approval this evening, that the existing easement would be released and extinguished. As I had mentioned to start with, the easement was a reciprocal easement, so the applicant would have access through lot 19. The, adjacent property owner asked that, since when we were before the board, the borough's ordinance requires that you receive variance relief if you have a driveway easement on your property serving another use. So the adjacent property owner requested that when we have this new two-way driveway improved on the property, assuming we receive approval, that the adjacent property owner be granted access over our lot to access their property. So we would no longer need any access on the adjacent lot, but ultimately we were gonna seek approval from the board to grant an easement to the adjacent property owner.
Have you received any objections to this by any parties in interest?
We have not.
Are there any parties tonight that are here and have questions as to the existence of the easement? Okay. No, this is always a sticky thing, because as you know, from our fundamental property law, you know, an easement is generally a private right of action. The board doesn't necessarily have a jurisdiction over private rights of, you know, they have the jurisdiction over private use and, you know, bulk features and things like this, but contracts between private parties are not within the board's jurisdiction.
Agreed.
So, you know, I mean, the board can certainly opine on this and give, you know, our planner, our engineer and planner can certainly opine on this, but I think the key concern here for you, and you have answered it to some significant extent, is that you're not gonna have somebody come into this thing, and I've had to, sorry to say this, but I've had to deal with it in other towns where subsequent to the extinguishment of the right of action or easement, you know, a party comes in and indicates that somehow they've been damaged by it. So, I mean, it would be my suggestion to you, and, you know, that could conceivably, would it implicate the board? Probably not, but it would definitely implicate the private parties. Because we would be, you know, apart from it, because by law, we're not, you know, we don't exercise any authority on that. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I caution you on that.
Thank you.
You know where I'm going with it.
I do, and the only reason why I'm raising it before the board is because the borough's ordinance, I think it's subsection 118F, basically states that in order for a and I agree with what your statement about it being private contract matter, but ordinance 118F in the land use and development ordinances suggests that the board has to grant a variance in order for a driveway to be located on an applicant's property, which serves another use.
All right, well, the ordinance speaks for itself. I'm not going to get into its constitutionality or anything right now. I mean, my suggestion to you is the application you're doing is the appropriate thing to do, because you're taking that into account.
Understood. Okay.
Right.
So,
I presume, Mr. Cole, you concur, or?
Yeah, it's I just brought it to attention to make sure this is thoroughly vetted.
No, I know you had asked me, and I, you know, in the midst of the many things we've been addressing lately, you know, this is one thing we've discussed. And my thinking is that as long as you know the situation and you're familiar with it and your client understands, I've seen, you know, you know, I'm not trying to tell you a war story, but just make sure you understand it, because if something goes wrong, everybody gets sued. You
Right.
get sued, the board gets sued, the town gets sued.
Right.
So, you know, if you're gonna get this resolved, you've gotta make sure that you gotta make sure that, you know, there are no really objecting parties to the vacation of this easement.
Sure. And I think that's why I very deliberately included it in my notice this evening, so that the
Right.
public was aware that this vacation or release of the easement was to take place, so.
I noticed that, and I'm glad you did it, because if somebody's really interested, that you know, you gave them a little extra hook, so.
All right, so I'll continue on. I just wanted to get that out of the way
So
first.
can I ask you a question about this?
absolutely.
So that the property next door,
Yes.
do they have the right to come onto your property and exit now?
Currently, they have, currently, the adjacent property has an easement over our property to access their property. But they have another driveway off of North Bridge.
Right.
If you're looking at it, it's kind of peculiar. There's how it's situated, but also currently we have a one-way through our property. So if we want to exit our property right now, we have to exit through Lot 19 onto North Bridge.
Correct.
So the goal was to create a two-way driveway, move it further away from the intersection, as Mr. Stiers will testify to, and create a situation where we no longer have to access our neighbor's property to exit our property. But the way that our neighbor was willing to vacate the existing easement was with the condition or contingency being that we grant them an easement over our property.
Which right now they have no,
They
can't-
do. It's a reciprocal
Well, I know that,
easement.
but they can't exit because there's a sign that says entrance only, correct?
That's correct. However, they can exit onto North Bridge Street.
Through the back.
Correct.
Yes, but they can't come onto your property to exit onto Cliff Street.
They cannot come onto our property to exit onto Cliff
But
Street
now,
currently.
because of the new plan that you're presenting tonight, they want to have that access.
That's correct. That's correct.
And they're on notice of that. You know, you, obviously, you served notice on them.
Absolutely. Actually, they have the easement. They have the new easement, which would, if assuming this is approved, that would provide to the board and the board attorney if necessary. But they're absolutely on notice.
Yeah, that's why the driveway is 20 foot wide, I guess to accommodate.
Correct.
The new one.
The
Okay, so-
proposed one, correct.
But right now, what's the use of that property? It's a single-family home with a commercial parking lot,
The adjacent property.
correct?
I don't want to speak to what the use is on that lot. My understanding is a single-family lot, and I don't want to say how they're using the property.
Well, it's
What-
pretty obvious because there's commercial vehicles,
There-
there's commercial material that's there.
And
Like
it's
a
in
storage
Mr.
yard,
Cole's
isn't it?
report.
Yeah.
So the
Right.
easement that I had drafted and could be a condition of approval is that I've actually written into the easement that there shall be no, that the easement shall not be used for commercial purposes. If it is to be used for commercial purposes, they would have to, return to the board and get site plan approval to use the property in a different manner. I can include that.
You mean
into
that
the
you
easement.
would? You would have to go back?
I would, well, I guess I'd have to sign off on the application because the driveway would be through my property,
Right.
however, we wouldn't be the applicant.
I
It would-
think what Morgan's getting at is right now, it looks like the adjoining property has a commercial element to the rear, near the barn that was moved. Because obviously, there's all those commercial trucks, the landscaping
Correct.
trucks.
Right,
So what Morgan is saying, or vetting out is, are you proposing commercial trucks down the driveway onto West Cliff Street, correct?
Right.
Correct.
the easement that I have drafted, which I can provide a copy to the board, says quite to the contrary, no commercial trucks outside of like UPS, mail carriers, Amazon, but the easement, I think the ordinance actually, I can't remember, I can't cite the section, but I think that I'm not permitted to allow, commercial vehicles, on my property.
Well, again, with an
Right.
easement, if you have to enforce it, your recourse is not through us, it would be, either
Understood.
through, it would be
Yeah.
through the police, or it would be through a lawsuit.
And also, we would run the risk that a zoning violation could be instituted against.
Correct.
the property owner if he were to allow commercial trucks on his property.
Unless the tenant had a business that he had to park his vehicle there.
That, again, I don't want to speak for the adjoining property owner, so I'm not sure what line of business he's in. I don't want to make a representation to the board that I'm not aware of, so.
That may be an issue. Because you're throwing a lot of commercial vehicles, or potentially, onto Cliff Street. Even though you're moving the driveway over, which is a good thing, away from the intersection, you're gonna throw more. Because let's be realistic, who's gonna enforce the
Right.
commercial?
Exactly.
Right, that's why, I've been in your shoes and I've been on the other side where it's gotta be, some kind of enforcement or, law enforcement has had to get involved, and it's definitely a mess, so,
I mean, I recognize the board's concerns, and I hope I'm not stepping out of line to suggest that if there are zoning violations that are taking place on the adjacent property owner, the board's clearly recognizing it, and it must be open and obvious.
Right.
But it's really a matter for the zoning officer to address, and that's when situations like this have come across me before. It's a situation for the zoning officer to address. They issue a zoning violation. All that I can say is that an easement, if it is permitted by this board to the adjacent property owner, I can include in the easement that there shall be no commercial vehicles going through our property.
I would also want the record to reflect, and you might want to put this in your easement too, that if in fact those uses are taking place, the easement or this proceeding by no means indicates or implies any consent by the board or by the or by the municipality of which the board is a unit of that use.
I'm fine to agree to that.
I don't
as
want
well.
an estoppel or some kind of you know what I'm saying, some implied acceptance of those conditions.
Right.
Because developers will do that. They will seek to do that however misguided it may be, and the last thing you all want to end up last thing we want to end up with is a bunch of litigation.
So, to make it clear, if the board were to approve this easement, it would be specifically to provide access to a single-family residential use on the neighboring property, as well as obviously a driveway to our property, so.
Did
that
you
the
speak
record
at all
can
with the
reflect that.
neighbor, just out of curiosity? I mean, did you speak at all with that neighbor?
The applicant who's here this evening, Mr. Gonzalez, who's the managing member of the applicant, he had spoken to the neighbor, and if the board has any specific questions,
Okay.
it might be appropriate to
I mean,
direct.
not that, I'm not looking for hearsay, I'm just, investigating. Ordinarily, I'd want to know that. If I'm the property owner, that's due diligence that I would undertake.
Sure. Understood.
Okay?
All right, so so the property is obviously located in the POR district, and the main reason why we're before this board tonight is because in the POR district, the POR district permits single-family and two-family uses. This is for a 3-apartment use, thus a D1 use variance is being sought. Additionally, we're having a residential use in the detached carriage house, so perhaps it's subsumed with the initial D1, but that would also require a use variance. There's also the height of the existing structure requires a D6 height variance because it's in excess of 10% of what's permitted in the zone. However, there are no expansions to the existing dwelling required. The main dwelling its height is remaining as it currently exists. So the presentation of the application will be made through 3 professionals. First, Mr. Craig Stiers, a professional engineer, followed by Mr. Premiano, a licensed architect, and then Mr. Alexander Doherty, a professional planner, who will address the proposed variance relief associated with this application. And as I had previously mentioned, Mr. Gabriel Gonzalez, the managing member of the applicant, is in attendance this evening and is happy to answer any questions of the board, should the board have any. So, Mr. Chairman, if I can introduce Mr. Stiers and have Mr. Stiers sworn, and allow Mr. Stiers a few moments to place on the record his educational and professional background, although I'm sure the board is very familiar with Mr. Stiers.
We'll pass.
Okay.
Seriously, Ray, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Craig Stiers, S-T-I-R-E-S.
Good evening, Mr. Stiers. Welcome.
Thank you.
I think the board is very familiar with your credentials, Mr. Chairman. I'll let you determine if that's,
Mr. Stiers knows he owes me an interview.
Still,
Still?
still.
you're right.
Now we can do it on YouTube.
So, Mr. Stiers, did you prepare or supervise the preparation of the site plan before the board this evening?
Yes.
And can you discuss with the board what we're trying to do by way of this application?
Sure. As the board, I'm sure is well aware, the site is 6 West Cliff Street, also known as Lot 108, It's on the northwest corner of West Cliff and North Bridge Street. And I'm sure many people, have been living here for a few years, know it used to be called Hangman's Hill. So, and as Mike said, it's probably one of the top 10 nicest houses in the Somerville, without a doubt. The site currently has, it's 27,440 square feet, contains a 3-story building, was formerly owned by Nara Realty, who also owns the adjacent lot. And kind of give a little background to that easement, is what happened when Len Nauer owned the property, he then, I believe he sold it to the,
Red Cross?
yeah, the Red Cross. And that's when the easement came into play. You had the parking lot behind, the Red Cross, which I think is actually a man's one point for the United Reformed Church. So you had the parking lot back there, he had no access except for the small driveway coming off the North Bridge. So just kind of reading through some documents, it looks like Len Nauer created the easement to get into that property. So that's really where it kind of established itself. And then most recently, the property was sold, the adjacent property was sold to an individual who then reverted back to a single-family residence. I know that we did a plot plan for him to relocate the garage towards the back. So there was a zoning review per se with that approval. So there is some of an approval on that lot, just some background. As far as the property, again, in discussion tonight, after Len Nauer sold the property, Edison Research was in the building, again, continued the,
Excuse me, Mr. Stiers, would you speak into the mic, please?
You can also one there if you want.
which one is easier, this one?
Steal it from Mike. Is that better? Oh,
Yeah,
much
that's
better.
great.
Sorry about that. As I said, Len Nauer sold the property to Edison Research. I'm sure some of you saw an article in the local papers about some of the background of the building recently. Again, they continued with their office building. The property has a parking lot in the back of it as well, which is adjacent to the former horse barn. And the horse barn is, it's standing, but it's vacant. I don't think they've done anything with that building or the inside of it for many, many years. There's an existing driveway, as Mike discussed, that comes up on the eastern side of the building, very close to the intersection, goes through the portiere of the house, goes around the back of the house, serves the parking lot for this property, and then continues on into the lot next door, which kind of basically follows that easement that we discussed. As you all know, the front of the property slopes down to West Cliff Street. There's a steep slope on north bridge that pretty much comes down to the sidewalk. And so that's basically the background of what's out there now. As far as what is proposed, I think the biggest thing is, even with the notice and the application and what you guys are reviewing is, you hear a 3-bedroom, or I'm sorry, 3 apartments. I think the biggest thing to realize is that the applicant is going to move into the main first and second floor. So I think it's more of a main residence with 2 additional apartments. And that is to really make use of the structure, as well as, bringing back to life the horse barn in the back. To restore this is gonna take a fair amount of money, and I think what the applicant is looking to do is generate revenue so that he can do the best that he can to restore this place, because, again, he's going to live in the first 2 floors, and then have the studio up on the 3rd floor, and then, bring the horse barn back to life, is the way I look at it.
Is there any intent to board horses and things like that, do equestrian activity? Well,
I think if he had the chance, maybe, but
in Somerset County, that's a very, that's a
Yeah.
major issue, major thing.
Yeah,
Tom
So-
and Jerry.
but I think, he's gonna use all the room on the first floor and then,
Right.
partially on the second floor. But I think that's gonna be a really cool feature of this thing, let alone restoring the house itself.
Well, that's why I thought I'd ask, because I'm so familiar with it, I know many people who are involved in that in Somerset County,
Yeah.
so I think they're always looking for other players in the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if the applicant can, stick a horse stall in there,
I don't
Never
think
know.
so.
that would get full use of it. But again, I think that's a big thing to, weigh into the board, is that it's not just 3 apartments. It's gonna be, the restoration, and the applicant is going to live in the house and then make use of the rest of that space. Also, as part of that, as you see in the revised plans, we're gonna eliminate the driveway on the existing driveway. And what that allows us to do is to, at least on the east side, is kind of pull that slope back from the sidewalk, because I'm sure when you've walked by there, it's too steep. There's a lot of stuff coming down there. There's an old retaining wall that was on the edge of the driveway that's kind of fallen apart. So all that can come out, and we can restore that slope and, have it, again, more presentable. And once we decide to eliminate the driveway, and, the portiere being something else to be able to use, is convert that portiere to additional porch space. So, we eliminate the driveway, raise it up so that it matches the existing porch along the front. So you have, another covered porch as an, added feature for the house. And then the driveway to the west, the new driveway, allows it to push it way back from the intersection, which makes a much safer condition,
Right.
in and out for for anybody that's using the property. So now you have a 2-way, 20-foot wide, and then they can get back to the property. Whether it comes to fruition of the neighboring property, that's up to the board. But, I mean, even the way the driveway is proposed, I think it's a much safer condition, getting it further away from the intersection. The number of parking spaces reduces from 13 spaces down to 7. So what that allows us to add some green space around the converted horse barn. We are putting some new lighting up in the back. We revised it from the first round, so I think Mike is okay with the way it's laid out in the revised condition. So I think that's really everything else is really internally. There's a little bit of an extension on the westerly porch, but, and the update of the parking lot and the driveway. But as far as the house, it's just being restored at this point.
I can just ask a couple of questions. So you said, first of all, that there's 7 parking spaces, so can you clarify, are there 7 shown on the plan, or there's 6 shown on the plan?
Well, there's 6 physical spaces, and then with the EV spot, we have the credit, so that would technically be 7, the way the new law is written, but there's 6 physical spots in the parking lot.
And then I'm just looking at the, Mr. Cole's revised report, again dated February 13th, 2024. Most of the comments have been addressed, as Mr. Steyer stated, from the initial November 2023 report, but there were still some remaining questions, so I'm looking at items number 9 and 11 on pages 9 and 10 of Mr. Cole's report. If you could just provide some clarification on the proposed EV chargers for the property.
I would say, realistic, we would end up putting new ones up. The ones that are now are hung on the horse barn, on the wall. So I would say we would probably end up putting up new ones on the opposite side of the parking lot.
But they're not meant to be necessarily
Oh, they're not-
commercial
no,
EV chargers.
no.
I think that's one of the things we need clarified. And then, so, what's gonna happen to the existing curbing in the vicinity of the carport? Is that to be removed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, you touched on this, but on your revised submission, but how is trash being handled between the 3 dwellings, recyclables?
I would say it would be consistent with the neighborhood. I think everybody, tends to put it on the curbs and, just picking up with the borough garbage and county recycling.
Turning to page 13, item number 1, Mr. Cole asked about any concerns you may have relating to headlight glare from trespassing onto lot 18.01. Do you have any concerns with that?
I mean, right now, there's 13 parking spots, and we're cutting it in half, and the parking is oriented that ultimately, when they're parked, they're gonna be facing North Bridge Street. So I think it's an improvement from what we're doing now.
And there is or is not existing landscaping there?
There is landscaping between the 2 properties, yes.
Okay. So obviously, we're willing to work with the board, should the board require, additional, but, turning to, pages 14 and 15, items number 1 and 2, and I know obviously that this is existing, but can you discuss the, stormwater runoff from the driveway? Specifically, do you have any concerns about runoff, sheeting across the sidewalk causing icy conditions in the winter?
I would ask that we not do the trench drain. I mean, the trench drain that's there now, they, in most cases, they don't really work. What has happened with the one that is at the existing driveway was filled up with leaves and debris. And what happened was the discharge pipe actually went over to the curb line in North Bridge Street. So we had a company come in and clean all the pipes out, including the trench drain, and find out where the piping was going. So the discharge pipe from the trench drain was actually, looks like it was damaged or broken when they redid the ADA ramp at the corner. So there is no drainage in that particular area. There's nothing on North Bridge Street, there's nothing on West Cliff until further down. So if we were to put a new trench drain in, we would run into the same problem, I think. I don't think there would really be a discharge point. So if we put a trench drain in, there's no discharge, it's not really doing anything positive, in my opinion. So, and if you look at the rest of the driveways coming down West Cliff Street, I don't think any of them have trench drains either. I think they just drain towards the road and across the driveway or across the sidewalk and onto the road. So, I mean, I could work with Mike. I mean, that's my opinion on it. I don't think trench drains end up being problematic in most cases.
Right, but then you can put a catch basin in and pitch it all to a catch basin through a curb face. The idea, Craig, the issue is potential icing of the sidewalk.
I get it.
And it's gonna run down that driveway, 20 foot for 150 feet or so. So all I'm suggesting is, if you don't like a trench drain, put a catch basin in. And then do a curb face discharge, so you don't have potential icing of the sidewalk.
We can look in, I mean, like I said, I've vetted my opinion. As I usually say, I'll work with you to
I
to
got it.
resolve the issue, so,
Where's the catch basin go?
right.
Nowhere. Nowhere, just because they're curb facing. The idea is you don't have the water sheeting across the sidewalk.
Right.
It just catches it and discharges right where Rich said to the street.
Yeah, which is a problem. You've got the curb cut, and you've got a discharge through the curb. When they plow snow, you get snow and ice inside the pipe, then nothing works.
And this driveway is a 10% slope, so
Yeah.
the water's getting off the driveway.
Yeah,
So it's not really gonna sit, I mean, I get what you know, a lot of times over, in the years past, if you put the trench drain in and, but it just, I mean, look at the one now. It doesn't work. So, that's,
Right, you don't like it, but I'm saying you could put a catch basin, you could just all pitch the water toward some drainage structure.
but then you still end up with the discharge being clogged with
Right.
snow and ice when they plow the snow, which they do a very good job anymore. But it gets
You
frozen,
think?
and then it stays there, and then then here comes the water again. I think you're going around in circles.
yeah.
If you had a place to go, it's different, but here it's gonna get stuck at the ice face.
And I think the other thing, Mike, is, you know, you put the pipe through the curb. By the time you get to the sidewalk, you're compromising the sidewalk because there's not enough cover over the pipe.
Well, the elevation difference is huge, Craig, there's no way that could be addressed just by putting the catch basin higher. The elevation, you're retaining wall on the driveway to make it up. The retaining wall on either side is 1 or 2 feet tall to try to soften the pitch, so there's plenty of pitch to make it work. It's not like we're gonna have some kind of coverage issue here, it's not the case. You just put the catch basin next to 10, 15 feet of higher driveway, problem solved.
But it's still gonna get across the sidewalk.
Yeah, but you can still do that, you're saying getting across the sidewalk from the perspective of the face discharge. It typically works, but I think what Rich is saying is, and this is true for all the curb face discharge, you have an icing problem with the curb face discharge potentially in a bad situation, where the snow clogs it up. And that will happen because we have 3 snowstorms a year. The rest of the time it functions as intended. So I agree, but how many snowstorms do we have that actually clog it up?
Well, now that you said that, watch out.
Yeah, right.
But alls I know is at the museum, we have a small discharge, and I'm always fooling around with that thing trying to free it of ice and snow to make it work, otherwise the gutters come right over the top.
I mean, you could already, the other thing is, once it discharges onto Cliff Street, is there enough pitch on Cliff Street to move the water? There's no, I'm sure that the water's gonna come off the driveway,
Yeah.
so I think if you have a discharge pipe onto Cliff Street, almost, that may be more problematic than if we didn't.
I think we should step carefully with that concept. I really do, I really do. Just
Why
think-
don't you, like you said, why don't you and Mike get together and work
Yep.
it out?
Yeah.
There are just some other drainage questions, relating to the roof leaders on the western side of the barn, on pages 15 and 16, number 5. There's a question regarding whether the roof leaders could be connected to the stormwater piping system located in the parking lot.
Yeah, I think I can work with Mike. I think
Yeah.
it's similar to Dominic Precario's,
Right.
you know, tying it in. So that one, we have plenty of pitch there, so, yeah, we can work through that one.
Craig, on to item number 2 on pages 16 and 17, you had said that you were under the impression or advised that Saw and Sons replaced the sewer lateral within the past 10 years. I was just wondering if you could expand upon that.
When we were out there doing the videoing and the cleaning, you know, whether it was coincidence or whatever, actually, one of the guys from Saw and Sons actually stopped by and talked to one of my guys and said that they actually did replace the line. And he said it was within the last 10 years. So, I mean, we tried to find a connection point and, you know, to obviously do it at the same time, and we just didn't have it at that time. So you know, we took care of all the storm piping and tried to get as many of the roof laterals, leaders, but just didn't have an opportunity at the end of the day to get the sanitary, so we kind of relied on what the guy happened to say when he stopped by, so. I don't know whether if we really need to go back and do that again, but if it's a requirement of the board,
Oh, you just have some documentation that
Yeah.
it's done, if it's PVC, you
Yep.
know, it's tight.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
I mean, we'll check in the basement and see what's coming
Right.
into the building, so if it's PVC there,
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
okay, yep.
the last item, and I think all the other items were either, again, already fleshed out and we can agree to, is, item number 4, going back on page 15, the, bicycle safe grate. That's something we can install over the
Yeah,
catch basin.
we can switch that, yeah.
All right, so no problem there.
Nope.
And, that's all I have as
Yep.
far as my questions are concerned.
I don't know, Craig, is this for you or the architect? Do the utilities have to be upgraded to the horse farm?
I would leave that for Joe,
Okay.
the architect.
I had a comment, you had a comment about the utilities coming to the main building on the
Yeah,
the east side of the.
Yeah,
And
if-
I agree with you. My comment was really, if the utilities have to be upgraded to the horse farm to be on the ground.
I think some of them are actually underground already, you know, because there
Yeah.
obviously is power to the building because of the EV.
Right.
So I believe that is underground already, so. But I'll let Joe follow up on that one.
Anybody from the board have any questions of the testimony given by Mr. Stiers?
Craig, how many, parking spots on Cliff Street are you eliminating?
6.
I don't know, are they designated? I was trying to remember that myself, after. Probably at least 2. And I doubt if we would put them back in the old driveway because it'd be too close to the corner. But I'm still trying to remember if they were designated on that side or not.
Does council get involved with that?
If the parking spaces designated.
Yeah.
Then the council's gonna have to approve the elimination of parking spaces,
Correct.
in my opinion. If they're not marked, I don't think it needs council
I don't think
approval,
there's-
not technically parking spaces.
Yeah, Marvin, I don't know if it's striped up there.
Yeah,
But
I think
it's
so.
the same thing went to my mind.
yeah.
It's just private parking?
I don't think it is right.
I don't think so.
I don't think it is.
I mean, obviously it is on High Street, but I don't think it is on
This
Cliff.
is just private park?
Right.
I mean, obviously, if they are designated, we'll have to get approval from the council.
Right.
So
Right.
if we do that, we can't remove it without it, assuming it's designated, so.
I don't think anything's going to be out.
I don't think so, nothing.
Okay, that's good. Anybody from the audience have any questions of the testimony given by Mr. Stiers? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stires.
Alright, so next we have, Mr. Joseph Primiano, our architect.
Good evening, Mr. Premion. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Joseph Primiano, Primiano.
Thank you very much. Counselor, your witness?
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Chairman, would you like Mr. Primiano to place
Please.
on the record his, your, educational background and, professional background?
Sure. Went to New Jersey Institute of Technology, graduated 2001. I'm currently licensed in New Jersey and 10 other states. I've testified before numerous boards throughout New Jersey. This
Name
is my
3.
second time here.
Your second time here?
My second time here, yes.
Thought you were familiar. Okay, we're good.
All right.
If you wouldn't mind, Mr. Primiano, why don't you explain to the board some of the renovations that are proposed? Specifically, if there's any exterior changes, I think it would behoove the board to hear any exterior changes.
Sure. So, the major change on the exterior is gonna be on the first floor. There's currently a wraparound porch that starts at the portico share, runs across the front of the house, and then halfway down the left side of the house. That porch is being extended about 15 feet. The construction of that porch will match the existing construction as far as columns, decorations or details, spacings, colors, all of that will match, obviously, to keep the design looking as it's, as it currently is. I think there is, on the back side, there's one window that's being filled in. I believe that's the only exterior changes. On the first floor, on the second floor, it is, it's changing some windows, so they comply with the egress, because what's happening is some of those rooms, will become bedrooms on the second floor, as well as the third floor. So in order to have the bedrooms, you have to have at least one egress window. So those windows will be changed to meet the size of egress requirements. And then the same goes for, like I said, on the attic floor, the third floor, the windows need to be changed for egress. Everything else is interior changes. We showed the layout of the existing first floor, and the proposed first floor. Again, the first floor is gonna be the main living space. We have a kitchen, we have a family room, we have a library and a dining room. On the second floor would be where the bedrooms are going. We have 3 bedrooms proposed on the second floor, 2 bathrooms, and laundry room and some closets. And then on the third floor, that is going to be a studio apartment. The way the existing space is now with roof lines and ceiling heights, there's no way to get divided rooms in there because of those slopes. So it's currently, it's a finished space up there, but it's all wide open. Pretty much the intent would be to also keep it wide open as a studio apartment. We'd have a kitchen on the left side, and then we have the bathroom behind there. You want me to go?
Yeah, I could just ask a couple things. So Mr. Starks testified that the carport's gonna remain. You're gonna add to your plans that the porch is gonna extend underneath the carport structure, right?
Correct, yeah, the portico share will not be a portico share anymore, because you will not be driving under it. So that, where we have these steps that go down to the existing driveway, those steps will be eliminated and it'll actually be flush. And then a deck will be built under that existing roof structure, which would pretty much make it all part of the porch.
And then you probably were gonna talk about it without me asking, but the horse barn, it seemed like from Mr. Steyer's testimony that it's in disrepair. It needs substantial renovations. Would you agree with that?
Sure, you want me to go?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the back structure is currently the old horse barn. There's actually still, I believe there was still the dividing walls in there and the stalls for the horses. Up top was just a loft space for, hay and different supplies. The intent here is to completely redo the interior of that structure and make that into a 4-bedroom residence. On the first floor, you'd have a living room and kitchen, laundry, and bathroom, and then towards the back would be 2 bedrooms. There's a stair that goes up to the second floor, and on the second floor, we have the 3rd and 4th bedroom, and there's also a bathroom up there. The back portion of the second floor is not really usable. There's low slopes there, and pretty much that would just be used for storage, probably some mechanical equipment. The furnace would be back there. So the habitable space would be towards the front of the dwelling. Any disrepair as far as like paint peeling and different items like that, certainly they would all be taken care of. The architecture style of the horse barn matches the front house. The intent would be to keep that, any changes would certainly match that style. Again, the outside changes are really related to windows and doors, where the main barn door is in the front, that would be changed to a door to get in the residence, and then we have some windows being changed out so they comply with egress regulations.
Just a couple questions from me. So regarding the existing utilities on the property, the 200 amp electrical panel depicted on sheet V1F, is that existing or proposed?
In the horse barn? Yeah, I think that's in the horse barn, in the back of the horse barn.
Yeah, one F.
Yeah, that's proposed there. I believe there's electric out there, but I don't think it's adequate to support what we're doing. So that would have to be upgraded. I think there was a comment even regarding the main service coming in to the house. We might have to upgrade that as well. I believe there's only a 200 amp service coming in there. I'd have to run through the calculations and see if that has to be upgraded to maybe a twin 150 in order to support, obviously all the equipment that we're doing, the upgrades to the horse barn, EV chargers, etc.
And then as far as the electrical services to the EV chargers, can that be all installed below grade? I think there's existing chargers for this one, or is there existing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can all be installed under below grade.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
okay. And then, there was a general comment, and we spoke about this before the hearing regarding, the layout of the two, actually, that's the other application. Sorry about that. All right, so that's all I have.
Anyone from the board have any questions?
Are you, yeah, are you planning on sprinkling the main building?
If it has to be sprinklered, yes. I'm not sure.
A
it does.
residential system, I'm not talking about a full-blown out system, but a residential sprinkler system.
Sleeping on the third floor.
Yeah, that's the problem, you got people up in the air, in the wood building.
In Knox box?
It's very possible,
Fire department, fire
because it would be a
smoke
change
alarm,
of use.
barbed wire?
You are allowed 3 stories without sprinklers, but, it's gonna come down to, the number of exits and how they exit out. Which is why we have, currently there's in the stairwell, there is a fire escape that's still there, which is gonna remain. And then we have the stairs, the internal stairs that go all the way and come out the backside. With the addition of the egress windows, that might be enough where, the sprinkler system is not required. We would have to do some fire ratings between the second floor ceiling and the third floor because they're gonna be 2 different apartments, so we would have to do fire ratings between those 2 different.
Yeah, I think we understand that, but my question was, are you planning on sprinkling it?
Only if code requires it.
It's their code with the bedroom on the third.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Thought so.
Again, sprinklers in a normal, in a 2-family dwelling, that's 3 floors, you do not need sprinklers.
I disagree with you there.
You're allowed to do it as a 5A construction instead of 5B.
Sleeping on the third floor, you just sprinklers.
That's a long jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think that we would work out with the construction official, and
You can look it up, it's in the IRC. But you also get the habitable attic portion of that too, so there's a limit on how much of the attic you can have.
We're not even classifying this as a habitable attic. I think this is gonna count as a 3rd floor, because it's just more space on the
So
2nd floor.
you're sleeping unit on the third floor, you got the sprinklers, so. But they'll work that out, just to look at that.
yeah, they won't issue us a permit unless we're compliant with the code, so.
So your fire escape only goes to the second floor, you're gonna extend out to the third, or?
It goes to, it goes higher than the 2nd floor. It's a few steps down from.
Yeah, it looked like it got to the second half of the window on the second floor.
Yeah, I think there might be a
not on
picture
the
of it.
third floor.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
where that fire escape is, that window is up in the stairwell going to the third floor.
So it's not to the third floor, it's just to the second floor.
That's second floor.
Yeah.
It's between the floors. It's between the floors. I don't know, it might be,
A long first step.
yeah, so there's a stairwell that goes, it wraps around. And that stairwell's only being used for the third floor. So those windows are mid-level between the two floors.
You said that stairwell's open from the first floor to the third? It's an open stairwell?
Well, the stairwell is continuous, it's not an open atrium, but yes, and we've also, that stairwell would also have to be fire rated because it's the separation between the units, which is also why we show a rated door up at the top as well.
As Mr. Alex said, it's a long jump.
Rich said that. I didn't-
Oh,
I can't
okay,
take
so as
credit
Rich
for that.
said, it's a long jump.
I mean, we're happy to work with the construction official and Mr. Cole if they want to see, you know, the fire escape extended
We do.
to it. So that's totally fine.
I'm not sure I wanna see the fire escape. I'd rather see a sprinkler
Oh,
system.
I'm sorry.
Where we extended the water.
I thought you were saying that you wanted to go up to the
No, I think what Eddie is saying, that you're building a chimney, putting people on top of it, sitting in a bed. And it's a beautiful project, beautiful plan, but that's a hang-up. I mean, you don't wanna see any dead people on the third floor. I don't.
I don't.
And, you know, I've been down that road, don't wanna see it again.
We just had that talk.
yeah.
Anyone else from the board have any questions?
I think we do wanna see the sprinkler.
That's fine. We'll sprinkler the building.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a
Good.
question for you on the barn itself, that bedroom number 2. How do they get to the bathroom?
So they have to use the bathroom on the first floor.
They gotta come from the second floor, walk down.
Correct. I mean, we could make that bathroom, like a Jack and Jill setup, where that bathroom would have access from both bedrooms. I don't know if that's what the owner was looking to do, but that would be a possibility, is to put, just like we have a door from the front bedroom, we can have a door from the back bedroom, and then both bedrooms would have access to that bathroom. I think the intent was more to have that bedroom as the primary bathroom and primary bedroom, and then just the other bedroom is more like that.
Counselor, would you instruct your witness just to, it's very hard to, very hard to hear.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sorry.
Thank you.
The applicant indicated that if the board wants it to be a Jack and Jill style bathroom, that's fine. Whatever the board's pleasure.
Anyone else?
Nope, just a question.
You're gonna have two primary uses on the same lot. Have you given thought to subdividing it? How many carriage houses do we have that have been converted, Morgan? That many? I can think of maybe two that are used as residences, where you have two primary uses on the same lot.
I could say I don't think the applicant's given any thought to that. I think you'd run into a situation where you'd be creating undersized lots. I don't know if you were to subdivide it, you would probably have up two undersized lots, because I believe this lot's already is this lot undersized? Sorry, don't mean to confuse the other application, but you'd have undersized lots under the same ownership, so it would be unorthodox for that type of subdivision to take
Well,
place.
doctrine of merger would probably come into play, yes.
But then, of course, the board would have to approve the subdivision.
Right,
Then.
exactly.
But the only reason why I'm highlighting that is that it's unorthodox for that to take place. That's all.
Understood.
Anybody from the audience have any questions of the testimony just given by the architect?
Sir? Could you come forward and spend, I was gonna say, it's a lot easier to hear.
I'm not used to being on that side. Dennis Sullivan, 8 South Richards Avenue.
Oh, good evening.
How are you? I like the project. I mean, it's a creative, reuse of a beautiful building. My only question is access and egress to the third floor, which is now an attic. Will it be through the main house, or will there be a separate entrance and exit?
There's currently a stair, there's actually 2 stairs that go up to that 3rd floor. I'm not sure I would really consider it an attic. It's an open 3rd floor at this current time. So the one stair is being blocked off because then that is gonna only be used for the 1st floor and the 2nd floor. The 2nd stair that actually goes up there will still remain as the full stair, and that's the one that goes through and comes out on the back side of the house.
Is there direct access to the outside from the proposed apartment and vice versa?
Yeah,
Direct-
absolutely. You don't, they're gonna be 2 separate apartments. You do not have to go through one apartment to get to the other apartment, yeah.
And I appreciate the board's concern about fire safety and on that, it's still an attic, no matter what you call it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to correct the record that I was mistaken in saying that it would create an undersized condition. So it's confusing the other application, but it's something I can discuss with the applicant. Your suggestion, it's a good suggestion.
Thank you for the clarification.
What type of windows are proposed for the barn? Windows on all the facades except for the north facade. I think you're eliminating one window on the north facade. Are they Andersons, are they double hung? What are those windows?
I don't think we got as far as specifying brands at this point, but certainly it would be some kind of window that's gonna match what most of the windows are on the property. So whatever colors that is, if that's a wood window, we would match that particular material. Everything that we have shown is a double hung, again, to stay with that style. Now, if there's an issue with the window size and getting it to comply with egress, because with an egress window with a double hung, you're limited by the clear opening, because only one sash opens. So they do make a casement window, or a casement window would open, it would be hinged on the side and it would open as like a door. That allows you to do an overall smaller window, because when the window's open, the clear opening is the full window instead of half of it. And what they do is they have a sash that runs across the middle of the window, and it's called a simulated double hung. So it's the solution where, if you're trying to match historic windows like this, and you need to comply with a double hung egress window, you got a simulated double hung. So it looks like a double hung window, so it matches that style, but yet it still allows for the egress to get out.
So you anticipate on the a vinyl clad window?
I don't know, whatever the windows are now, I mean, probably, I don't know. Typically, you're not seeing wood on the outside because it's a maintenance nightmare, but.
No, I understand, just
Yeah.
trying to clarify exactly what windows are being proposed.
Yeah, I would assume, either vinyl clad, or if you go with like an Anderson, it's a composite material. It's like their FiberX material.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And our final witness for this application, Mr. Alexander Doherty, who is our professional planner.
Good evening, Mr. Doherty. Nice to see you again. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God?
I do,
And please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
sir. Alexander Dougherty, last name is Dougherty, professional
Just in the interest of full disclosure, Mr. Dowry and I have taught the same seminar at the League Municipalities Conference in connection with zoning and planning. That will not deter our ability to do our job in this case.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Downing.
And,
You said you've appeared before us?
Yeah, I believe at your last location. Last year or about a year ago,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. And didn't recognize the name, although I deal with an attorney with the same last name.
It was last spring.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was last spring.
Yes, and I was accepted as a professional then as well.
You still are.
Thank you.
thank you. So, Mr. Dougherty, you have the toughest job this evening. A lot of variances here.
Yeah, it's a unique application for sure, and I think your board professionals identified the variances as they relate to the property. Given the uniqueness of the property and with all my planning applications, I visit the site. I prepared for this evening an exhibit packet consisting of maps and photographs for orientation purposes. If it pleases the board, I'll pass them out as an exhibit. We'll walk you through the site. We'll mark this one A1.
You mark those exhibits?
Yeah, we can mark them as A1 if that's okay.
All right, that's fine. Is that collectively, an A1 collectively, or, okay? Very good. Okay.
So slide one or sheet one of the 12-page set is a superimposed cropped zoning map for the property in question, which is outlined and identified with the red arrow and red circle, center of the page. Again, might be a little challenging to tell, but the property is in the POR zone, as identified with the darker black borders around it. As you can see, it's a fairly large lot comparison, just from that visual. Slide two is from NJDEP's GeoWeb. Again, the property in question is outlined in red. Gives a little bit more perspective on the property. As you see, we have some existing building footprints shaded on the property in a darker gray. What's interesting about this slide and some takeaway points is, we talk about residential. We are in good proximity to the nearby park, just a few lots down, where we do have a lot of open space. You know, it's a corner lot. And with that being said, we'll kind of go through the next couple slides and document the existing condition and some surrounding conditions by way of addressing some residential features and the overall plan associated with 6 West Cliff Street. Slide 3, photograph I took myself on the 19th, just this past weekend, as the site currently stands today. You see, it's a very good-looking building. It's got a great curb appeal. As a planning standpoint, you know, we certainly like to accentuate the corners in our communities with very attractive buildings. You know, Somerville certainly have already done that. And, you know, we'd like to keep this existing structure as is with little to no modifications, as you heard from the architect. There's that carved overhang that, as you've heard, will be at possibility converted into a porch. And there's that driveway, as we discussed early on in the application. Slide 4, we kind of spin the drone around and you'll see some side perspective here. There's the driveway. We can kind of see the old horse barn in the rear. Slide 5, start to draw your attention towards the rear with the yellow arrow indicating that accessory structure that we just went over. As we've heard, there's plans to renovate this to a residential feature. With that being said, you know, it's important to note, as we talked about the site and its interconnectivity here, and we'll draw upon that in the next couple of slides, where we go up the driveway and we're automatically met with some surface parking with that accessory structure. Slide 6, I thought was interesting, because when we talk about scale and appropriateness for the structure at a residential use here, the yellow arrow is the accessory structure that's associated with the site, and the red arrow is the adjacent property. And as we see from a scale standpoint, they're pretty much right on par as far as scale and massing from a residential standpoint. So I thought that was interesting to note, because not every day do we convert accessory structures into residential uses here. So from a compatibility standpoint and the overall scale and size, I think we certainly have something that is more in line with the existing built environment from a continuity perspective. We kind of spin that drone around on page 7 for different perspectives of those two structures that I just mentioned for scale, to get the overall size and massing and compatibility. Slide 8, I want to address to our neighbor, the neighboring property identified with the red arrow. As we discussed early on, the driveway is being proposed to be relocated for a joint access with our neighbor identified with the red. And as we see, there is no real hard delineation of what one property starts and one begins as far as the driveway and the access between the sites. So the next slide, slide 9, I took the drone up and to really get a better understanding of what's happening here. For illustrative purposes, I kind of put in some hatched lines and arrows by way of organization, if you will. So the existing yellow, you know, is kind of the way the site functions now. The red would be a double driveway access, as we discussed, and that's proposed approximately where that driveway would be. But currently, the way this property sits, the property in question, our neighbor being 2, we have the adjoining abutting property that sits next to the accessory horse barn, and we have the tan one off to the left. So collectively, you know, this driveway and the way the site flows and our neighbors, you know, there is some neighborly you know, interactions happening here as far as, you know, how people go in and out. Again, there's no real hard delineation from the public realm. You wouldn't know, you know, where one property is going to start and stop. So I found that interesting. As we discussed early on, the existing curb cut is really close to the intersection. So I do think moving that over brings some positive to the site as by way of safety in that regards, and certainly better use functionality-wise, you know, as far as coming in and or leaving the site. I know they're one-way access points, but I do feel like this shot here really does paint the picture of just how close that existing driveway and that curb cut is to that intersection. Slide 10 is just a different perspective without the arrows. We kind of spin it around as we have North Bridge Street up to the left, and there's that curb cut there. You see it's fairly thin, and again, it services our neighboring property. But with that being said, the last couple slides here are, you know, more of the built environment here. We do have driveways that come onto West Cliff Street, as we have our existing. As you see here, 2 houses down, there's another driveway there, our neighbor 2 houses down. With that being said, the last slide really is just a collaborative overall perspective of the neighborhood. The top left being the park that I mentioned early on. The top right, from a compatibility standpoint, and we have the row houses here on the other side of North Bridge. The bottom left is across from West Cliff. As you see, we have multiple driveways servicing a larger parking lot in the rear for multiple properties there and uses. And then the bottom right is, again, a picture of West Cliff Street, as we see that white house I referenced on the last sheet is our neighbor 2 houses down. As you see, we do have that neighborhood driveways, coming onto West Cliff Street. So what we're proposing is not out of character with the built environment, with the driveways there. But with that being said, that is the exhibit packet for orientation purposes. We are here for a D1 use variance related to the POR zone. We're one tax lot, block 108, lot 18. As we've heard, the plan is to adaptively reuse the existing structure as well as the barn, for residential purposes. The principal structure would consist of 2 dwelling units. The first 2 floors consisting of 1 unit, a 3-bedroom residential apartment, if you will, with a studio apartment on the existing 3rd floor. We have a detached dwelling, which is, I believe, is an oversized accessory structure. Typically don't see them that large. In the rear of the lot for a 4-bedroom detached residential use. Collectively, 2 principal uses on the same lot. The principal being a two-family, if you will, consisting of two units. As you see, it's a healthy balance of residential units for the area. As we heard, the plan is adaptive reuse of these 2 structures. Predominantly, most of the work happening internal to the site. There certainly will need to be some upgrades by egress windows in that regards and fire safety, but the structures themselves are predominantly to remain exactly as shown. We do have, when we talk about the zone conformance, what's unique about this particular property, it's nearly a little over 2 times the size of the zone minimum requirement of 10,000 square feet. We're at 27,440 square feet. So I believe we have excellent carrying capacity for the proposed project. We do meet the minimum lot frontage on West Cliff, minimum lot frontage on North Bridge, requiring a 60. We have 120 off of West Cliff and 230 off of North Bridge. Again, it's a fairly large lot, a little over 2 times the zone requirement. When I look at the zone requirement, given that we're such an oversized lot, we're predominantly in compliance with a lot of the bulk standards here. It is a corner lot, so by way of side yard setback, we have 2 frontages, so that, in essence, if you were to pick a side, we would be in compliance in theory with the side yard setbacks for both, but we have 2 front yards. So in essence, by an asterisk, if you will, technicality by definition, that's where we don't have that compliance. But as far as the overall use of the property, I think it's important to note the back of the napkin test. We are under the required FAR, the floor area ratio. 25% is what's permitted. We're at 22.4, so we are under that threshold. When I look at the overall project itself, maximum improved coverage is 50% with the site alterations and the driveway being wider. We're at 42.6, so again, we're under that threshold here as well. We would be in compliance with the parking requirements as testified earlier. So the relief we're seeking is a D1 use variance. We also have an additional D1 use variance for the 2 principal structures. Given the change of use here, we do have a D6 for height. With that being said, I believe the site collectively sustains the 4 elements of proof required under the DG test for D1. Prong number 1 being site suitability. The site is particularly suited for the use by its virtue of its condition and the context. Condition-wise, as we've heard, the site is over 2 times the size of the minimum lot requirement. This is a minor retrofit of a existing office space. The massing from the public realm does not change. I believe when we look at the overall site internals, we have excellent design and engineering and architecturals. Change of use is going to bring this older homes, older structure into compliance. So condition-wise, the overall structure, by way of being 2 times site, I think has a lot to do with it for a site particularly being suited for this use. And in the context of the overall area, the neighboring land uses are predominantly residential. We have a park, Exchange Field Park, in close proximity. We are on the corner. If we look at slide 1, we have, right across from North Bridge Street, we have another oversized lot, as I mentioned, those row houses or townhouses, if you will. Again, these corner lots are larger. As we see already in the built environment, they have sustained more intensive residential uses. It's not in the manner of a new construction by way of a row house, but an adaptive reuse of an existing structure that I think has a lot of charm and character, which is, in essence, what Somerville is. When I look at prong number 2, for special reasons, the use and the application promote purposes of the land use law, such as efficient land use, adaptive reuse is favored by planners for its efficiency. The project promotes the general welfare of new housing stock for a growing population. The project promotes a variety of housing options according to needs of all New Jersey citizens. The project retains and improves what's there visually and functionally. I believe when we look at the overall improvements to the site, those improvements not only add value and quality to the site, but it also adds value and quality to the neighborhood and most importantly, our neighbors adjacent to us. The project overall promotes efficient land use, variety of land uses, economy of scale, and positive aesthetics, all of which promote the purpose of municipal land use law, purpose A, C, E, G, I, and M. I'll go through those. Purpose A is to encourage municipal action to guide appropriate use or development in a manner which promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Purpose C is to provide adequate light, air, and open space. Purpose E is to promote appropriate populations and densities in appropriate locations. Purpose G is to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses, agricultural, residential, recreational, so on, both public and private according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. Purpose I is to promote a desirable visual environment through good creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. Purpose M is to encourage coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land and development with the view of lessening the cost of such development and a more efficient use of land. I certainly think this application hits those marks and advances the purposes of municipal land use law. Prong 3 of that Medici test is the public impact or negative criteria. I believe the relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public. I believe the project will have minimal, if any, impacts. We discussed in great detail the runoff and the going onto the street and the driveway and the sidewalks. We have sworn testimony by all experts that the site will function, flow, and operate safely and efficiently. Visually, the project retains what's there. Again, these enhancements are really internal to the site. I don't think we have any open issues on record and impacts of a substantially adverse nature unresolved. What is on the record, I think, is minor, and again, as we've heard, will be worked out with the 4 professionals. And when we look at the units, I believe the units are comfortably sized. I don't believe this is overcrowding, overdevelopment. Again, I'll point to what's across the street. We have multiple residentials on a very similar sized lot of Northbridge. And when I look at this, the units particularly, I think, are comfortably sized. So from an overdevelopment standpoint, I think the principal structure has the size and capacity to hold the 2 units. Again, that top unit is a studio, and then the horse barn or the accessory structure, again, as you saw in the slides, is certainly compatible with the adjoining abutting property that is used in a residential manner. The 4th prong here is the zone plan impact and reconciling it with the master plan. I think it's important to note that every variance application needs to relate to a distinct piece of property. This site is clearly distinctly different based on its sheer size, its location on the corner. If this property was in the middle of an established residential block versus a corner, I'd be a little bit more concerned, but this is a corner lot, and again, more than 2 times the size. Also, what's unique about this property is the size of the accessory structure in the rear as well. So we definitely have unique characteristics associated with this site. When I look at the use of a multifamily, in my opinion, I think it's a slight uptick of what could be there in the principal structure. We're allowed single family in the zone. So when I look at that 3rd floor, it's a studio. If they were to rearrange the internal layout, that studio could be subsumed within that principal structure as one unit. So from a yield standpoint, or bedroom or pedestrian, the house, whether it's one or it's a studio, I think really is a minor detail, given that the structure itself can hold the units comfortably, whether it's the multiple dwellings or a single dwelling. I think the opportunity to provide for a studio certainly advances housing options for a growing community. When I look at the overall project itself, I don't believe this will cause substantial zone plan impact. When I also looked at the zone plan, what's interesting is boarding housing and rooming houses are also permitted within the zone, with some conditions that they would have to be located in the principal structure, and there's a few conditions associated with that. So with that being said, it's not true to a single-family dwelling, or strictly. So I think the studio is not going to erode the intent of the zone plan, as residential is allowed. When I look at the overall integrity of the zone, I believe it's very much intact. This is merely a retrofit for that principal structure to be used as a multifamily or two dwelling units. When I look at the overall zone as well, from an intensity standpoint, the zone does allow for apartments in non-residential buildings, essentially mixed use. So we can have two separate uses. In this particular case, it's the same use, residential use. So again, I don't think we're really eroding or undermining the intent of the zone plan, because more intensive combinations, if you will, can certainly be associated with this particular structure. When I look at the master plan and reconciling against the master plan, the reexamination report in 2019, I'll just kind of go right to the land use goals on page 14. I'll read it verbatim. Other land use policy recommendations. The policy recommendations for existing zone districts is as follows. The POR zone district should encourage, where possible, the adaptive reuse of existing housing stock so that buildings can be used for multiple uses so that they are fully utilized. Encourage development improvement of non-residential uses in designated areas. A strong business community is vital for the physical health of the borough. I think we have that here. We also have strong language, encouraging to keep the structures as they remain. With that being said, it's a beautiful structure on a corner, vacant, and I think we're hitting the intent of the land use goal and the reexamination report. We have a housing goal, which is to provide a range of housing types to meet the varied resident population needs. So as we preserve the established residential areas and promote redevelopment in redevelopment areas, I think it's, when we look at it further, it says locate housing in selected locations with and around the central business districts. As you can see here, we do have the central business district just a few blocks away near downtown, and we are, again, kind of looking at sheet one. There's a lot of zones really relatively close to each other. We are in the POR zone, just a few lots away. We have the R2 zone. We have the CG, the B1, the B2, the SC. It's not too far. So with that being said, I do feel like this added population supports that housing goal as well, and advances the municipality's master plan and reexamination recommendations. With that being said, if the board were to look upon the principal structure as suitable by virtue of the Medici test, the second D1 use variance that we would be seeking would not be on the table. That second D1 use being that under section 102, 117 of the general regulations, says no lot shall contain more than one principal building or structure except for related compatible buildings consisting of one basic use or operation under one management, and limited to the following. So when we look at what the following are, it goes A through E, but right off the bat, point A, garden apartments and multi-family dwellings. So if the board were to find the principal structure suitable for multifamily dwelling, you could essentially have here by this section of code, two principal structures used for multiple residential uses, given that it would be under one management and so forth in one operation. So to subdivide the property, we we could do it that way. We do have an oversized lot, but by virtue of the principal structure being suitable for mixed use, two-family, I'm sorry, we would also be in compliance with that section. So I think there's, when we look at that, the board can look upon that secondary use comfortably, knowing that we do have adequate size to subdivide that if need be, or we can look at the principal structure as suited to subsume that second principal structure as residential. Given though we are changing the use, we do have a D6 height variance. As I do want to point out, when we look at the height variance, I do not believe we violate any of the controls related to the Grasso test. The upper floor, as we saw in the existing layout, has a bathroom up there already, and in the internal layout. Retrofitting that for residential, we do change that use. As I dug through Somerville's ordinances, and it became very clear the community and municipality takes great pride in its identity and the charm and character, to the point you have an architectural board to review facades and elevations. Most municipalities just have an historic board that are only looking at properties delineated in that historical district. That's not the case here. So I think by recognizing that the structure exists in its capacity by way of height, we also advance the goals and identity of Somerville by not altering the exterior of that building. And again, it's on the corner. It's good planning to accentuate these corner lots with good design. And I think by virtue of doing that and leaving the property as is, we also advance purpose side of the municipal land use law. I believe also when we look at the overall height, I don't believe we're going to cast any negative shadow effects. We have, again, a lot that is more than 2 times the zone requirement here. With that being said, it is an existing condition, but by virtue of changing the use, we have to recognize that height and that standard of height. I don't believe we're going to violate any of the Grasso requirements for height controls, and I think by leaving that, it's a benefit. With that being said, we do have some C relief, which would be subsumed within that D1 use variance, but by virtue of what those C relief would be the minimum driveway setback, as we discussed early on, the shared driveway with uses that are not affiliated with the particular lot in question. We have some parking lot setbacks, and whether we can comply or not, we have some shade tree and street trees. It was unclear upon my review if we were going to comply or if we were seeking that relief, but nonetheless, these relief would be subsumed within that D1 use relief. I'll conclude that the project brings a healthy balance of housing options to support the goals of Somerville's master plan, in particular the POR zone and the land use goals. A project such as this, I believe, from a planning standpoint, helps to promote what we call the missing middle, particularly related to that principal structure, where we typically have a single-family house and we go right to these large, robust apartment complexes. So to have that 2 or 3 family narrative is what we call the missing middle. Those are a little bit harder of a land use to find and for housing options. I also want to point out there is no physical real change to the property from the public realm. What you see is what you get, and I think that's certainly a benefit here. With that said, I think the project is perfectly suited for the area and for the community. I think most notably it will add value to Somerville's housing while preserving the beauty and charm of the community, and the statutory criteria for grant relief would be met and approval would be warranted. It's a lot to go over, sorry.
Yes, so just for scorekeeping purposes, the applicant's seeking all the variances identified on page 26 of Mr. Cole's report, with the addition of a variance he sought from section 102-118F for the easement.
I just have one question. You made reference, of course, to the planning considerations. Would it be your position that the planning position that the use variance is grantable under Medici versus DPR,
Sir.
and that the variances which are, subsumed can be granted as long as the crisis is immediate?
Yes, and with that being said, subsumed within that and that relief, I do not believe would cause substantial detriment. In fact, as we talked about the drive aisle and that relief that was just mentioned, section 102, 118F, I think by virtue of that relief and that variance, it certainly is a benefit, as we discussed, moving that drive aisle over, making it wider, double access, and so forth. So some of the relief that we are seeking, I do believe, is an improvement of what existing conditions that are affiliated with the site, and it certainly add benefit to it. But the D1 use, Council, yes, I do believe it meets the criteria.
I just wanted to make sure you got those cases on the record.
Yes.
Because to me, they, my professional opinion, they fit you.
Yes.
You know, and it makes, that would be, they would be the standard.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dougherty. Anybody from the board have any questions of Mr. Dougherty?
Yeah, you ever vote for air?
As a planner, we're at last, so we try to punch it through, get what we can on the record. I do apologize. Yeah. One more, I'll take it slow.
No. Then, I had brought up the question of subdivision, because I thought you had said that the lot was 27,000 square feet.
It is.
And for the two-family, you only need 10,000. But I like it. Nobody has any questions, any comments from the board?
Yeah, I've got a few. Because I
Let me
think-
get comments from the audience. Anybody from the audience have any questions, Mr. Dougherty? Okay, would someone like to move that we close the public portion of this application?
I'll move.
A second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, let's go. Rich?
I think it's a great plan. I mean, looking at it, I mean, I was worried about that building as now we're moved out, and I wasn't sure which way it was gonna go. As we all know, the townhouses across the street are where a mansion once stood.
Yeah.
That's a long time gone, and I kinda thought that might happen here. So, overall, it's good. Throw in the sprinkler system, and I got nothing to say.
Stu?
Oh, it's a wonderful project. I'm actually very happy to see more residential as opposed to commercial area. So I'm all good with it. Great job.
Brian?
I want to go a different way. It's a beautiful house. I can remember being a little boy, and my mother would tell me stories. When she was a little girl, they were famous for Halloween parties there. And you'd have to go through the whole house to get to that was the object of the game, to get to the top. And we're all talking about how glorious it is, and it's one of the greatest. And I just wonder if we go in the wrong direction. I mean, if it was Westfield, they would renovate that house, sell it for $2.8 million, and get it all day. And what I see happening is these beautiful homes fall one by one, and this will be a beautiful house turned into just another four-family. And, yeah, okay, we need, I agree. It's just gonna hurt to see that one fall. And that's what I think happens to these old homes. Pretty soon, I think towns can make a decision, go this way and have a bunch of $1 million homes, $2 million estates, or they used to be estates that are all multifamilies now. And that's what I see happening. That's just my opinion. I'm sure no one agrees with that, but being a resident and knowing the stories from my mother telling me, it seems like we're letting all these great estates be a memory. And it's just gonna be a multifamily home. That's all it's gonna be. It might be a nice looking one, but it'll be gone forever, destroyed forever. Even if, now that it's an office building, it could still be a single-family home, easily. Easily. And if it was Westfield, that's exactly what they would do, and they would blow it up and it would sell. I mean, we're talking about the stalls still being there, the history.
Yeah.
Gone. That's what's gonna happen. So, that's just my opinion, but that's what we seem to be marketing them the wrong way. We're always, I don't remember seeing this house being marketed, in, what it could be. They're not marketed that way. They're saying quick, 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 turn it into multifamilies, chop up every square inch you can, turn it into income properties. That's what everybody does. And pretty soon people are gonna say, well, I'm gonna do that to my house. I think I can come in here and turn it into a 3-family. Why not? That's what everybody's doing. And pretty soon they're all gonna be gone. We're gonna be nothing but multifamily homes and apartments. That's it. And that's my point. It's like, I don't want to kibosh it. I'm not saying it's hard. I think it's great. I'm just saying that it hurts me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I used to remember growing up when I'd go to my grandmother's house and drive home and I'd say, one day I'm going to buy that. And I'm going to have, I'm going to do like my mother told me that, have big Halloween parties. I can remember thinking that. So it's like, personally, maybe but it's just like, I see some of these great homes. And I'm like, oh my God, they turned it into multifamily. And if you go down to Westfield, the houses are huge. They don't turn them into, they appreciate what it is. I feel we're not appreciating them. I feel they're not marketed in Somerville, which is, I think, it's a crown jewel. Everybody's running here. You can't get a house in Somerville. They're selling like this above market. You think somebody would say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we could sell this for $2.8 million. And then if that one, maybe then that one will sell for $3 million. And before you know it, psh. And I just think we're taking these beautiful, historic, never see again, never gonna have them again, and we're gonna put 4 kitchens in them. Gone.
Eric?
I respectfully disagree. I think that this is, I think that this is bringing a house back into a domicile as opposed to a business. Whether it's 3 people or 1, I like the project. Figure out the easement. But that's all I got to say.
I've heard it.
Oh, well, I'm going to say what I typically say. The studio apartment is bigger than my house. I think this project is so impressive. I'm sympathetic to what Brian is saying, but on the other hand, it could have ended up being an apartment complex.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very, very creative way to use the existing space, to appreciate the existing space. And boy, it's bigger than my house. So it's great. Thank you.
Chief?
Yeah, I think something that I didn't say before that I should have. The horse barn, carriage house, whatever you want to call it, is being preserved and reused. Like, Art, you and I are probably the only 2 around here members of horses in town. So,
Tom and Jerry.
yeah, but I think it's an impressive project. It's going to match the main building. And a lot of these old carriage houses and barns have been lost over time.
Yep.
So here you're taking one and you're reusing it and fixing it, investing in it. And I think that's a plus, because when you go by that corner, when the leaves are down, because you can't see most of it during the summer, but you see those 2 buildings standing there. And even as an unused building, that carriage house is distinctive, and it fills that corner in nicely. And as I said before, right across the street, they took down a big mansion years ago to put up the condos. Yeah, we needed the condos. A lot of my friends have lived in them over the years, but there was a pretty nice old mansion sitting there for a long time. This one's gonna stay.
So Craig, what's gonna happen to the wall in the front when you do the driveway?
Well, it'll be opened up, and then we could end up doing it over. I don't want to commit to that. But I would expect it would probably be done over as well, and that's the proposed wall.
You think it should be done over?
It all depends,
behavioral once with it, he's contemplated that, but, he's putting most of his money into the house. So it's tough to commit to all these grand improvements on the property when the true commitment is the house. And I think he will, based on the talks with him, he will do the right thing. The other is, I would love to see Bridge Street cleaned up a little bit, the hill, because that's always been an eyesore. And a lot of the kids walking to school with the encroachment of the trees and the brush, just an FYI. I commend you for the investment that you're making in Somerville. And Roberta and Rich has said, this could easily have been knocked down and could have been a condo project. So I hear what Brian's saying too, because there's a lot of validity to that, because Somerville is turning into a multi-family conversion town. And I think we have to be very, very careful with that. I'm not happy with the variance, not the variance, but the easement. And just by looking at these nice graphics that we have here as of a week ago, there's 19 spots next door, and it's a commercial entity. There's no question about that. And we're gonna start to have trucks that are gonna come onto Cliff Street, and that is a pathway for children that are walking to school both to and from. And I just don't think that that should be allowed at all. And I think that they should still go out to North Bridge Street and go out that way. I don't know how they got the approval with that garage in the back without the elimination of those spots. So, council, refresh my memory about how this easement is going to be reworded.
The easement is going to restrict the use of commercial vehicles over the easement. They'll be restricted for the multifamily to exist on lot 18, as well as the single family dwelling on lot 19. And if it's the board's pleasure, I'm happy to provide the easement to the board attorney to ensure that the language I'm utilizing is acceptable to the board to, again, prevent this use of commercial traffic onto Cliff Street through the use of our two-way driveway.
I would, if I may, I would think that you would want to, again, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this, but I do think you should probably interface with the other party and make sure they understand what's going on, because you talked about restriction. I see that as prohibition, which to me sounds like an excellent idea. Seeing this from the standpoint of its historical and residential value. But you want to make sure that you're not going to end up in some kind of a ground war, no pun intended, with a commercial user or an industrial user. We do have some of those in the borough who have, kind of cling to that or have become in that type of position, notwithstanding the fact that what they want to do is totally, alien to what the rest of the neighborhood or district is doing. We're in litigation right now with one, and have been for over a year.
If I could just weigh in on that, in all candor, I did, where our client did speak with the adjacent property, I presented them with a new easement already, again, contingent upon approval, and the adjacent property owner tried to say, I want to have trucks come in, and I said to the neighbor, there is no way that the zoning board would ever permit that. And I explained that we would have to leave this restriction in place in a new easement, that there would be, exceptions for Amazon or, UPS, but no commercial trucks would be able to utilize the driveway. So I'm only saying that to convey to the board that this issue, before coming here this evening, has already been fleshed out. It's my understanding that the adjacent property owner understands this, so.
Well, they understand it. Hopefully, they're going to accept it. That's
right. Well, we commit to not entering into a new easement with them unless this prohibition on trucks is in place.
right.
So
Okay.
It's already done before we were here. So.
All right. So, Mike, code enforcement, what happens here?
Right, I understand what the applicant is saying, that it becomes a code enforcement issue, but it's not really enforcement, in my opinion. Because
Is that a legal business back there?
I don't think it's legal.
I don't think we should be going there, guys.
No.
Craig, it was zoning
Shoot it over to
permit
Ashley.
the detention base, garage, but that's the extent of the zoning permit. It had nothing to do about the use. So,
I think to answer your,
Well, the zone would dictate what's allowed.
We should not go there.
Okay.
I would think maybe his, picture should go there.
That should be the kind of.
Yeah.
Love
Ship
the
it.
idea about moving the driveway, also eliminating of the parking spaces from 13 to 7. And again, just thank you for putting a big investment in our town of Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Coughlin.
Yeah.
To echo Morgan, just thank you. I'm gonna miss watching the garbage truck try to get the dumpster out of the back there, because they seem to always get stuck as he's trying to make that turn to get up the driveway, sit at that light, so I kind of sit back and let him get up there and pull it out. It's a beautiful structure. I mean, it's neat that that back structure is gonna be used again. It is something that all of us have walked by since I've been here 40-something years now. It's just that's a neat place to be. So I think it's a great job.
one question for Craig, Craig, it's in the roof, typical approve this, deal with the containers, the driveway, the driveway, mimic the roof. And I also had a comment on the report about USC, anybody know any juvenile tanks on the property? I know that Craig had responded that it doesn't show up in the DEP mapping, so that we wouldn't regulate it.
This never came up when Landauer came before the board for the use variance for the real estate, company. I like it. I think it's, revitalized the building. It's still gonna look like a single-family house, using a carriage house as a great adaptive reuse. It's been around a long time, as they said, it used to be called Hangman's Hill, although there's no record of anyone being hanged on that lot. I don't remember. Lynchings? Yeah, we had those. But, it looks good. I think it's gonna be what we intended when we took a look at the POR zone with the exit of the businesses on the first floor. And we said, okay, let's allow, residential on the first floor. And this is what we're seeing a lot more of it. Welcome to Somerville, and we're looking forward to working with you. That's your application, or you still have to make your summation?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought he did, but.
yeah, I'll be very quickly. I don't know if the board is still on the fence about the easement. It seems like it's been settled, but basically the only way that we were able to vacate the existing easement was to agree to a new easement, and so that's really the basis for it. Thank you.
Okay. Someone like to move the application?
Probably.
Move?
Second.
Second, any further discussion?
I would just, I should have said in my comments, I love the library. Kudos for including a library.
I'm gonna ask you to, that as a condition of approval, that you comply in all respects with, Mr. Cole's report.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
What do you have, Cliff?
That was it. That was the big one. I mean, other than our standard conditions of approval, the Cole report, what they're doing in connection with the easement. Again, unfortunately, we can't get our fingers very deeply into that. So what they're doing is what they have to do. I'm sorry, my voice. I have nothing further to add.
I want to talk about the sprinkler system. We need a residential sprinkler system in there.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I figured that we would put that in there, so.
All stipulations that were made on the record,
Right.
obviously, we agreed to, so.
Everything
anything
on the
you've said-
record, that's any stipulations are conditions, so. Building will be sprinklered to the satisfaction of, Mr. Cole and to our fire official.
So move, second, Any additional comments? Roll call, please.
Chairman Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Badimski,
Yes.
and Mr. Alvarez.
Yes.
It's carried. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
2-minute break?
Yes.
Counselor? I'll talk to you for a second.
We're gonna take a break.
Yeah, I think we should take a break.
So ladders they don't include ladders now for egress components. Even like the ladder that's hanging off this building technically doesn't meet that condition. Because now the fire escapes have to have their stairs that drop down. And part of the problem is they found that when people were very excited, they couldn't manipulate the ladder, they were falling. And vice versa, they also can't get out. Like someone, like, not to pick on Cliff would never be able to get something like that. So why are they gigging you for a second? Right. I mean, they get away with that in residentials for like bedroom basements, basement bedrooms. They put the egress wells. That's about the only place they let those steps. I mean, the ladders, set of steps. No, that's an emergency situation. Gets halfway up and stops. It's like the areas of refuge. I kind of always laugh about those. So I'm like, we're the person to the area of refuge. All right, we'll be back. I see you, dude. Well, the president about now.
It was never marketed. It was marketed.
Did they fix YouTube yet?
I muted everything.
pay $1 million for a house. You don't wanna.
For the hell of it, he noticed for the easement. So now we have the easement.
1.5 by the time you put everything into it that you want. So it's.
When you look at it, how she, these condos over here, they're selling for 600,000.
Crazy.
Let's resume.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, really. We work perfectly with it. 2 cans and string.
Yep.
Yes, I do.
This isn't the same.
Yeah, my neighbor, we had a string.
Same
Went to our
lawyer.
neighbor's house
And then just went, is
back in the day.
yeah.
Oh, God, I miss them sometimes.
It's just-
Okay, next item on the agenda. Grove Street.
Thank you for having me back. Just for the record, Michael Silver from the law firm DeFrancesco Bateman. I'm here representing 90 Grove Street LLC with a very. It has been. That was a nice break, though. We needed a break.
The
from,
last time we had your firm here was when Mr. Bateman was here.
Mr. Bateman. Okay. Very nice.
Bring out the big guns.
Yeah. So this property is also located in the POR zone, Block 71, Lot 13. The applicant proposes to renovate the upper 1.5 floors of we'll call it a 3-story building. It was a point raised in Mr. Cole's report on the property. The application seeks to shift the building's use from office space on the ground floor and the second floor, along with a single 1-bedroom apartment unit on the second floor, to a configuration that includes office space only on the ground floor and 2 apartment units on the upper 2 floors of the building. So we're essentially before this board for this application because a total of 2 apartment units are proposed instead of 1 apartment in a non-residential building. In the POR zone, a non-residential building is permitted to have 1 residential unit. I would call that a mixed-use building, but if you're seeking more than 1 residential unit in a non-residential building, you require D1 variance relief. Similarly to the last application, the proposed renovations will be made to the structure's interior. There are some proposed improvements to the parking lot, which Mr. Stires will address. But again, the idea here is to keep the aesthetics of this beautiful home looking the same in its existing condition, but with interior improvements. So without further ado, presentation once again will be made by the same professionals, and if I can have your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mr. Stires, our engineer, to be sworn.
Please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record, Mr. Stires.
Frank Stires, S-T-I-R-E-S.
Thank you very much. Your witness, counsel.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Stires' credentials are acceptable to the board.
For now.
So stipulated.
Okay.
He owes me an interview.
Not gonna hear the end of that.
No, you're not. And I told you why.
Stires, your time to shine. What are we doing tonight?
Same as the last one. Any question? No, I'm only kidding. As Mike said,
Easement too.
the site is 90 Grove Street, Block 71, Lot 13, formerly known as the Soriano Building.
Yeah.
Last time we had a little, just bring back a little history for you guys. So moving on, the lot contains 9,558 square feet, 2.5-story building. As Mike said, the first floor was office space, and the applicant currently uses it for his office. There is an office on the second floor and an apartment on the second floor. And what they're looking to do is to remove that office space on the second floor and then kind of reconfigure the space between the second floor and the third floor and make two apartments as opposed to one. First floor is gonna stay the same. And then, what we're looking to do is, get the required number of parking spaces, so we reconfigured the lot to more of a, I guess you could say, standard layout. If you remember, when the Sorianos were there, they had that huge tree, so that tree has since gone. The parking spaces are a little bit weird right now, so we were reconfiguring it with the EV space. We get the extra bonus spot, so that gets us to the 12 parking spaces required for this project. As far as the site's concerned, although we're reconfiguring the lot, we're putting some landscaped islands in the corners, some trees in those landscaped islands, actually reducing the impervious coverage in the parking lot. But as far as everything else on the site, it's really maintaining the drainage and everything like that. As Mike did notice in his letter, it is in the flood hazard area, based on the new rules. But that line goes along the parking lot, or the curb line, which is right next to the building. So the building is not in the flood hazard area, just the parking lot. And based on the review of the rules for the flood hazard, they have a series of, I guess, permits, I guess you could say. One's a permit by rule, then you go to the next phase, it's a general permit, and then a full-on individual permit is a full submission to them. So as long as you meet the permit by rule conditions, you don't need to submit to the DEP. And I think the modifications based on, technically it's permit by rule 40, what we're doing in the parking lot, we would comply with that particular permit by rule, so we wouldn't have to submit to the DEP for the minor modifications we're doing to the parking lot.
And then just, we are seeking a D4 variance because we're increasing the FAR slightly, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Stires, it's your opinion we're compliant with parking?
Yes.
Yeah. And how many would be required for this type of project typically?
Based on the calculations we did, is 12 spaces. So there's physically going to be 11 with the EV. Like I said, that's what they give you a credit. So technically, we do have the 12 spaces required for the project.
And anyone can use the EV space? It's not reserved for commercial uses?
No.
And same question from the last application, what type of equipment is going to be used for the EV charger?
It would be not a commercial use, so it'd be, I think we do have a detail on there, but it would be just a standard EV unit.
Recycling and refuse on the property to be handled the same way as the existing neighborhood handles it?
Yes.
You've been to the property before, correct?
Yes.
Did you have any concerns with the leveling of the sidewalk that exists currently?
I didn't notice any, but again, we'll work with Mike. If there's any tripping hazards, we can replace them. But I said I didn't really see any when I was there.
Okay. So we have, if you look at the parking lot, we have two separate means of ingress and egress, one way. Do you think that works? Do you think that consideration should be given to make it a two-way, or you feel that it works in its current configuration?
I mean, it's worked since Soriano was there. It's worked. Like I said, they added a couple spots into it. It's a little, the way it currently is, it's a little tight, but the way we reconfigured it, I think the in and out works fine. I think, you could combine it, but I think you're just throwing good money after bad.
Before the hearing started, we talked about the drainage and stormwater runoff on the property. Is impervious coverage decreasing?
Yes.
Okay, and then just for the benefit of the board and to address Mr. Cole's comment, how does runoff, where does runoff go right now on the property? And where is it proposed to run to?
Right now, it runs from west to east in the parking lot, so there's actually, or the southeast, so it's the back corner, there's like a low point. And, you know, same thing, I was kind of wondering where it was going myself until we completed our survey, and there's actually a head wall out in front of the adjacent apartment building. So the water runs from the parking lot, there's a depressed curb, goes through the depressed curb to the head wall, and then ultimately drains out. So we're, other than putting the grassed island in the corner, we're really maintaining that drainage path. So it's gonna drain to that back corner. We're gonna have a depressed curb there that would go into the grassed area and then be directed to that head wall as it does now.
Thank you, and I asked you this question in the last application. Do you have any concerns about head light glare to the neighboring properties with this application?
No, actually, the direction that, Mike, you're talking about is facing east. Because you're saying, I think, lot 14, which would be the apartments.
Apartment building.
To the east.
Right, so if you notice, the 2 parking spots we're taking out would be the ones that shine onto the building. So the condition that we are proposing now, they would shine into the front yard, so I think it's an improved condition. So I wouldn't have the concern of the headlight glare into the building anymore.
With respect to landscaping, Mr. Cole requested some input regarding a tree, an additional street tree along Grove Street. Is that something that we can plant, or in lieu of, we can provide a $650 payment? But in your opinion, would it be easier to plant it or provide the payment?
I'd have to take a look at it. I just want to make sure there's clear sight lines from the intersection.
Okay.
So if we can put it in, sure.
Either way, we'll comply, whether it's planting or making the payment. And I think that's good for my end. Obviously, if Mr. Cole has additional questions, but it's good for me.
On the roof leaders, Greg, you can just make sure they all daylight.
Yeah.
I think they do, but the one to the south, east corner, with the island in it, so that's gonna have to be relocated.
Okay, yeah, we'll work with you.
And then on the head wall that Greg was talking about, I think that's a private pipe, that existing condition. I just, in reports, suggesting there's no easement, the applicant should the board approve this, best effort to try to get an easement to use that pipe. I understand it's there.
The water's just draining into it, so it drains off of our property into the pipe.
Right. The head wall was put there for this property.
Right.
On another private property.
Right.
I just don't think, I don't know if there is an easement or a license.
So
Obviously it was put in to address this situation.
before tonight's hearing, I tried my darndest to locate an easement or an agreement. I couldn't locate one, so I'll continue to look. And if I can't locate one, we can work in good faith with the neighbor to try to secure one.
Yes, I understand that you can't work it out.
Well,
Obviously, it'd be nice to have the rights to use that pipe so they clear this out in the future.
Agreed.
Any other questions for Mr. Stiers from the members of the board?
Guys?
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Stiers.
Thank you.
Anybody from the audience have any questions of Mr. Stiers? Okay, thank you.
So we have Mr. Primiano, our architect. Who could have sworn.
Hey, George, you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Joseph Primiano, Primiano.
Thank you very much.
Licensed architect in New Jersey.
third time testifying.
Thank you, sir. Counselor, you're a witness, sir.
I assume Mr. Priano has been accepted as an expert in architecture?
Yes.
Thank you. Joe, what are we doing here?
So, the existing first floor is a commercial space. We have that shown on the third sheet. It's a couple offices, a break room, a bathroom. All of that is to remain as is. The fourth sheet shows, on the second floor, it shows that there's an existing apartment on the left side of the dwelling, of the structure. And on the right side, there's some more rooms that were being used by the office that was on the first floor. Those 3 rooms on the right side are going to be changed to a second residential unit. And then the attic up on the top level will be also finished and will become part of the second dwelling unit. If you look at our second page, I have a little side-by-side diagram that just shows a cross-section of the building and kind of the different spaces that are being changed. So pretty much on the second floor on the right, that commercial is becoming residential, and then that attic is also becoming residential. Now, on the upper floor, and I know there were some concerns about the bedroom sizes and the lack of a bathroom up there. So a little difference on the 2 applications. One was a 3-story structure that had a finished third floor. This is a 2-story structure, and the design that we did is considered a habitable attic, which some people will term as a half-story. So it's not considered a full third floor. Again, these are New Jersey regulations that allow you to finish an upper floor without considering it a full third floor.
Just for clarification, I'm really sorry, but when you're saying half-story, you're not referring to the borough's ordinance, you're referring to?
I'm referring to the building
Just wanna
code.
clarify.
The
Okay.
building code. It's technically a habitable attic is what New Jersey code labels it as. So, based on the concern about having sprinklers in the previous application, I'm sure there's gonna be a concern about having sprinklers in this application. And the reason why we kept the upper level so tight was to keep it as a habitable attic. If we sprinkler the building, then the habitable attic is not an issue anymore. We can widen the bedrooms because we could take advantage of that attic space that we're not allowed to use now, and we could also get a bathroom up there. So based on the sprinkler comments, it also solves the 2-bedroom size comments and adds a bathroom up there, and I'm sure the board would be pleased to have that all work out like that.
Yeah.
So, it's outside work, again, is just making sure we have 2 egress windows on that top level. And there was a comment about the condenser. There's an existing condenser on the lower floor, off on the right side. I guess it's the south side. Yeah, there's a condenser shown on the site plan on the south side here. We would put that condenser next to the existing condenser.
Just a couple things I want to clarify. So, the height of the structure obviously is not changing, correct?
Correct.
We spoke a little bit about it before the hearing, just so that we're keeping score. So, it was your opinion that the height, because there's a change in use of the existing structure, would not require D variance relief, or in other words, it's not exceeding the permitted height by over 3.5 feet. I think you had estimated 36.5 feet.
That's correct.
Okay, so just so we're on the same page, Mr. Cole, because your report had asked this, the applicant believes that the height is 36.5 as per Mr. Primiano's testimony. And then you had the chance to review the borough's ordinance concerning half-story versus full-story.
Correct. So now, those are the definitions are completely different. So in the building code, the habitable attic is defined as 1/3 ceiling height at 7 feet. So if your second floor was 900 square feet, you can't have more than 300 square feet up on the upper level. And if you go to 301, then you're now considered a third floor. All of this goes away now because we're sprinkling the building. It will really be considered a third floor. We're going to be over the half-story definition as far as Somerville, but we're adding those sprinklers in.
All right, so the point is, you would agree that it's an existing condition, or I guess it's now, we're seeking variance relief for a third story. You would agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then there was an electrical comment,
Yes.
same deal as last time. This is an existing 200 amp service. I don't think it would have to be upgraded just because it's not a very intense kind of structure here, but if it does have to be upgraded, we would do that.
I just want to confirm, you're seeking height relief from C, correct?
That is correct.
Very good, all right, I just want to confirm that.
Thanks.
Hey, Art,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
You're gonna revise these plans for the attic, I take it, right?
That's correct. So what I would actually do is, just so you guys have an idea of what this would look like, the bedroom, you have bedroom 1 in the front of the space. All we would do is widen that bedroom. Bedroom 2's in the back. We'd be able to widen that bedroom as well. So the rooms don't get so elongated, I'd probably take a little bit of space out of that loft to keep a nice length to width ratio in those bedrooms. And then on the right side where the stairs are, there's plenty of ceiling height in there to fit a bathroom. The only reason why we didn't do that was because we were trying to stay under that 1/3. But that's exactly where I would put the bathroom.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that you're gonna have to produce, revised reports, I think, and given the fact that a D variance is sought here, it might be appropriate to continue this to the next hearing,
I think so.
all right? I mean, my job is to protect the board's interests, and, I mean, I don't think the board is in a position where it's gonna be able to vote on this application tonight, given the fact that the plans have to be revised.
That's fine, but just to, so that I can clarify in the record, so, because if we're increasing the, space of the third story, that'll increase our FAR departure. So I just want to put on the record that, and perhaps the board could tell me, that we're doing this based upon the suggestion of the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
that's fine.
Michael, how long ago was it that you gave that class on, 2.5, third floor, 2.5 stories?
Yeah, we changed that about 5 or 10 years ago.
Yep.
The architect is correct. It is a C, because he's referring to the UCC, which has to comply with, but also the borough definition of a half story, so he's saying, based on the borough definition, it's 3 stories, so but the height doesn't exceed the C variance. I guess, Michael, what the board is saying is, since if you have a use variance, the plan has to be what the board has to approve. It can't be
Understand.
a concept.
Yeah, no.
It has to be exactly what the board sees to show that the board agrees with the flow and circulate the extra bathroom.
I understand, yeah. I mean, you're just, I understand it as you're saying you want to see what the final plans are before you
We
vote on a use
we really
variance.
You
have
have
to.
to.
Right,
We have
right.
to.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. That's, we're not gonna have to renotice though,
We can continue the hearing to the next, I don't know what our agenda looks like right
I think
now.
we'll fall through April, I think.
We full through April, Jenna? Okay, then we'll have to continue it to, do we have room in May? Okay, I believe we can continue it to May, and, that being the case, there will be, that being the case, there'll be no further notice. The public is notified. What's the date of our May meeting? May 15th?
Yes.
Okay. So then this application will be continued to the Zoning Board of Adjustments May 15th meeting in this location at 7 PM. There will be no further notice. At that time, you can appear and present and members of the interested public may appear and ask questions and give testimony in connection with the application, in opposition to the application, in support of the application, however they see fit. There will be no further public notice as to this meeting.
Another question, Mr. Stiers obviously presented his engineering testimony. It was open to the public and closed. None of the proposed plan revisions that we spoke of would have any impact to, would have any engineering impact, so, if it's I would ask that that Mr. Stiers not have to reappear before the board on this application, but if the board has any lingering questions
Nothing's
relating to
changed from his
engineering.
perspective. I don't see why he has to come.
I agree.
Understood.
I think you can excuse him.
I think he likes it.
Okay, unless he wants to come, he's more than welcome to
But
come.
he owes the chairman an interview. And we're all on notice of that now.
Well, that's
so,
a,
you know, it's-
well, no, that's a joke that Mr. Stiers.
no, I know. But I can't resist.
Well, if you want the history of it, it'd take a minute. When I first came on board, we had a planner, engineer. When he started giving his resume, one of the things he did, he studied under Frank Lloyd Wright. And we said, I don't want to hear the application, I want to hear you. And Mr. Stiers being an iconic figure in town, 50 years from now, when somebody's looking at. some old-
Iconic.
Another word saying he's getting older. Right?
Somebody will look at Ville TV and say, oh, Mr. Stiers was involved in that application? Mr. Stiers was involved in that project? Yeah. We want to preserve the history of this town. And you're next, Rich, and Morgan, Roberta.
Icons.
Hmm?
Icons.
Yeah. There you've got 200 and plus years of volunteer service to this town. So we have to preserve that.
I'm familiar with all over the state. This is an extraordinary collection of experience, just so you know. It's not that way in many other boards. Not that they're bad boards, but there's no substitute for knowing your community and having many years of experience. You all do. I'm always amazed at how you know the detail of every property. Mike, it's a pleasure.
So, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be, continuous till May 15th with no further notice.
That's correct.
And Mr. Stiers is recused, or excused.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Someone wanna vote on the extension?
I'll move
Move.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any other business before the board, before we go into executive session?
I have, something, Mr. Chairman, if you could take these, and
All right, yes, we do.
this is the subdivision, it was the Fernandez subdivision on Grove Street. The board heard. The drawing in front that was being passed out is it's the plot plan from the subdivision for the Fernandez subdivision on Grove Street that the board approved in 2022. The applicant, the plot plan the board approved maintained the jurisdiction for it and included sidewalks that are shown, the ones in red on that drawing. They're proposing to eliminate those sidewalks because they were shown for accessibility for tenants on wheelchairs. They're saying now that the tenants are not gonna have wheelchairs, so they don't need the extra sidewalks. So they're asking to remove the sidewalks which are shown in red. They still have a sidewalk going from the driveway to the front door, but they're want to eliminate the sidewalk along the southern side of the dwelling and going to the street. So, that is the modifications to the board-approved plans. So that's what he's looking for, to amend the plan and have the board's approval of those changes, which are basically eliminating sidewalks.
So are they selling that house or are they gonna rent it?
Yeah, really.
it's a
Because you said tenants.
well, it's a Habitat for Humanity, so that they have,
Veteran service though.
Right.
yes, the veterans, I'm sorry, it's a veteran service, so
Yeah.
they have, it's not a family, my understanding, a family's not going to rent it, they're gonna have,
thought they owned it.
individuals have different rooms there, there's 4 bedrooms. So, it's not gonna be sold, it's gonna be maintained by the service, but rented out to veterans. You're right, Rich, it's not Habitat, it's veterans.
We were always told it was Habitat for Humanity,
Well,
that it was gonna be for.
I get it too confused, but I think Rich is right, I think it is for veterans, but it's the same context being, it's a,
So is the house being made wheelchair accessible?
I don't think so. You're talking about the interior.
Your interior?
I don't think
So
so.
it's not like a handicap bathroom or anything like that?
I don't think it has one. It was a superior wall foundation, and it's a modular. It was, I do believe, craned on the site.
It's not very big.
No,
No, it's not,
no.
and it sticks out like a sore thumb with the architecture of the surrounding houses.
So how do people get from the sidewalk on Grove Street to the house?
They're proposing not to do it.
They walk up the driveway?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Morgan, I understand. I like the interaction, the connection from the house to the sidewalk in the traditional way, which is the sidewalk, John.
There's a front door in that house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, this is what they're proposing.
Yeah, but with that, Michael, if they're renting it to the veterans, the tenancy will change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the tenancy will change, and there will be veterans who need wheelchair accessibility.
I
Yes,
totally understand that you're saying the future is gonna be dynamic, it's not a family living there for 30 years, we don't know. And then what Morgan is saying is, why wouldn't you want a standard sidewalk connects the building
For the
like,
mailman.
like every other house in Somerville has? That's what,
Why do they wanna get rid of it?
money. Money. They're trying to save costs.
Sometimes you're just gonna have to pay for.
So-
That's a cost of being in the borough.
It was, the request was asked, and,
So it's gonna look different than every other house by not
it's
having.
not gonna have,
It looks different anyway.
it looks different anyhow, it's basically, well,
Mike, can I add one thing? If the fact is if you were to waive this sign and you put the imprimatur of the municipality on it, and somebody falls and hits their head and kills themselves or whatever, ultimately you become in the chain of liability, in my professional opinion. It's up to the board, but I just wanna make sure
I
you're
wasn't in
fully
favor
aware.
of it.
I share the concerns of the board, but I'm just a messenger here, this was the request made.
I think basically what we're hearing is, we're not changing it.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's a wise decision.
Well, when Michael called me about it, I said, well, what do you think? I said, 7 of us voted for this, let 7 of us review it. I'm not gonna make a unilateral decision to do it. I'm not in favor of it.
No, nor am I. They wanna come present their case, let them come and present their case.
Like I
Probably
said,
about the same cost as putting a sidewalk in.
Yeah, exactly.
in this town,
I will, pass the message on.
Okay.
okay. I don't think we need to,
Well, veterans organizations can get grants for this kind of thing too.
of course they can.
I know in Hoboken, that's what they've done, that's what.
Oh,
they've
yeah,
done.
they put a nice one there.
Absolutely,
They put a
and,
Far
you know,
nicer
the-
than Hoboken.
and they got some grants for it, and they understood that was part of the game.
Yeah.
Because for the reasons I know I laid out, and you know, there's money to be had in those things.
Yeah.
You know, as far as grants are
Oh,
concerned.
they could end up with another lot in town and do the same thing.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of doing the legwork.
I mean,
I will convey the message tomorrow to the applicant.
okay, thank you, Michael. Someone like to move that we close this meeting and go into executive session?
Second.
Move second. Roll call, please.
Chairman Dare,
Yes.
Mr. Allett,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenet,
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Vidomski,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez.
We're going back. Because we start messing with the TVs and stuff. Yeah, let's go to the back room.
Oh, boy.
Back room politics, Jersey City.
Filled room, no going back.
Yeah, sure, why not? Well, let's turn them off when we leave, so nobody trips coming out. Oh, live stream, turn that off.
Well, don't you have to leave it on so we can back it in and join the meeting? I'm
Yeah.
asking the question.
Yeah, they did, last time we did it, they left the stream on.
We have to come back and,
Well, we adjourned our meeting, and then we're going to executive session. Our regular meeting's over.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll be back out anyway.